Hello, guys. Picture yourself nestled in a soft, clean, climate-controlled bed, wrapped in a plush duvet with a memory foam pillow cradling your head. Now, swap that comfort for a medieval night's sleep. Biting cold, prickly straw, and the company of both family and tiny, six-legged pests. The odds of waking up refreshed and eager for the day are slim, while the likelihood of a fresh skin rash and a heavy dose of existential unease looms large. Take a moment to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this journey. It means the world to our growing community of history enthusiasts. Share your city and local time in the comments. It's incredible to see how far these stories travel. Now, lower the lights, perhaps switch on a fan for a gentle hum, and let's step into this medieval tale together. After a punishing day toiling in the fields, your body aches with a deep, familiar soreness as you shove open the heavy, poorly fitted wooden door of your home. You step onto a chilly, damp dirt floor, thick with the mingled scents of earth, spilled ale, and a faint animal musk. This is your entire world, a single multifunctional room that serves as kitchen, living space, workshop, and tonight, your bedroom. Your home is a crook, its frame formed by two massive, naturally curved timbers creating an A-frame structure. The walls are wattle and daub, interwoven sticks coated with a rough mix of mud, clay, straw, and yes, cow dung. It's eco-friendly and rustic, but the uneven surface lets in countless drafts, with no insulation to keep the ever-present wind at bay. Your family's shed blood is a nightly toll you pay for the privilege of lying down, a universal burden in this era. Even kings and queens grumbled in their letters about the same persistent pests. In a desperate bid for medieval pest control, your mother once mixed fragrant herbs like fleabane, wormwood, or meadowsweet into the straw, hoping to repel insects and mask the growing stench. You faintly recall the pleasant scent when the bedding was last changed, but its effect has long faded. Your elderly grandmother's coughing fits sometimes rouse the household, though her small frame takes up little space. 6 of you share this bed, a deliberate arrangement designed for thermal efficiency. The most vulnerable, the young and old, are tucked in the center, shielded from icy drafts by the stronger, working-age adults. Your father, the family's protector, takes the outermost spot near the door, the coldest and riskiest position, ready to face any threat lurking in the dark. This nightly huddle is driven by 2 primal needs: warmth and security. Warmth is critical in your drafty hovel, where heat escapes the moment the fire dies, and the indoor temperature races to match the freezing air outside. The single, greasy woolen blanket, precious as it is, can only trap so much warmth. The true heat source is your family, your father's body, your mother's, your siblings. By pressing together, you minimize exposure to the cold and maximize shared warmth, instinctively trading personal space for a collective furnace. On a night when ice films the water bucket, it's a worthwhile exchange. Security, though less tangible, is just as vital. The darkness here isn't the soft, muted dark of a modern suburb. It's a deep, oppressive blackness filled with unidentifiable sounds. An owl's hoot mimics a ghostly wail. A twig snap in the nearby woods could be a fox or something more sinister. Nestled tightly against your kin, you feel a primal safety. Your father's steady breathing, your mother's occasional sigh. These are reassurances that you're not alone in the terrifying dark. Your pack, your protectors, are within arm's reach. Historians debate the exact sleeping arrangements, whether they were strictly organized by age and gender or a chaotic scrum decided by who reached the palias first, but the principle of safety in numbers was universal. On bitterly cold nights, when the wind howls like a ravenous wolf and frost seems to pierce the daubed walls, it wasn't uncommon to bring valuable livestock inside. Not the whole flock, but perhaps a newborn calf or a piglet too frail for the lean-to. Tonight, a soft grunt near the hearth signals your father's decision to bring in the sow's weakest piglet. To modern ears, this sounds bizarre, but to you, it's a practical choice for survival. The piglet lives, and its small, warm body adds another tiny furnace to the room, along with a rustic note to the already rich aroma of smoke, sweat, and earth. The line between human and animal space is blurred at best. You lie there, packed like a sardine in a straw-filled tin of family. Your sister's hair tickles your cheek. Your brother, deep in sleep, flings a heavy arm across your chest. Moving is a group effort, requiring negotiation and coordination. The air carries the faint scent of sweat, with smoke and unwashed bodies. Not offensive, but simply the smell of home, of security. Despite the lack of space, Huxley, this tangled pile of limbs and shared breath brings a profound sense of belonging. The world outside may be cold and frightening, but here, you are safe, you are warm, and sleep begins to feel possible. Your brother's arm, heavy as a log, rests across your ribs, his slow, whistling snore a steady rhythm. Shifting to ease the pressure disturbs the entire Peleus. Your sister mutters, your mother sighs, and the straw crackles like a dry forest floor. You freeze, realizing that even a small movement requires the consent of 5 others, like turning over in a crowded lifeboat. Personal space is a foreign concept. Your breath mingles with your sister's, your feet tangle with your grandmother's, your back presses against your mother. Every twitch, shiver, or dreaming leg is a shared event. The night is an intimate symphony of bodily sounds. Your father's teeth grinding, your grandmother's wet cough, a faint puff of gas from someone, unremarkable as a sigh. There are no noise-canceling headphones or separate rooms to escape the sounds of digestion and discomfort. These are the familiar noises of your family, as constant as the wind outside. Even your private thoughts are not your own. If you lie awake, worrying about a quarrel or a poor harvest, your restlessness ripples through the bed. Your mother's gentle touch in the dark silently asks, "What's wrong?" Your inner world is tied to the outer, your unease contagious. Even the nobility lacked true privacy. A lord and lady might have a feather bed and velvet curtains, but their chamber was semi-public, shared with servants on truckle beds, ready to fetch water, tend the fire, or empty the chamber pot, a fine ceramic vessel tucked in a garderobe, a primitive toilet emptying outside the castle wall. Servants were often invisible, allowing some intimacy, but a private, locked bedroom was rare. Business might even continue late into the night. The Lord's world was softer and warmer, but no less communal than yours. As you lie in your human pile, this bitter comfort emerges. Even the wealthy lack the solitary peace you crave, a luxury beyond the reach of money in this age. The familiar sensation of belonging settles in, and against all odds, sleep feels within reach. And other creeping creatures, their soft skittering a strange mix of eerie and oddly soothing in the quiet night. The fire's faint light casts huge, wavering shadows, making the cramped space feel both vast and suffocating. Darkness here is a tangible presence, pooling in corners, far from the instant, sterile light of modern homes. Your family, parents, siblings, maybe a grandparent, moves as quiet silhouettes, huddled near the fire's fading warmth. Privacy is an alien luxury. Every cough, sigh, or sniffle is shared. As the embers die, cold seeps in from the dirt floor, thin walls, and cavernous roof. There's no thermostat to adjust, no spare blankets to grab. Your only warmth comes from the shared body heat of your family. Some historians argue whether prized livestock, like a pig or chickens, were kept in a nearby lean-to or brought inside on the coldest nights. Tonight, with the chill biting, you might wish for the pig's natural heat. You slide a heavy wooden bar across the door, not to guard against thieves. There's little worth stealing, but to block the wind and any nocturnal creatures prowling outside. The bar's thud marks the day's end, shrinking your world to these rough, smoky walls and the shared exhaustion within. Now, in this cold, crowded space, you must find a way to sleep. The bed is a pallias, a coarse, woven canvas sack stuffed with straw from the last harvest. It's no crafted bed frame, just a lumpy, flattened mat, far from the mattresses whispered about by travelers, a concept borrowed from the Crusades meaning something thrown down. The straw, once fluffy, is now packed hard, with sharp stalks jabbing through the canvas. It reeks of musty decay, dust, and human sweat. You settle onto the paley as a rogue straw poking your ribs, your head resting on a smooth log instead of a pillow, promising a stiff neck by dawn. A single, coarse woolen blanket, smelling of smoke and damp, is shared among three, sparking a silent tug-of-war as you pull it over your shoulder, exposing your brother's back, or he tugs it back, leaving your feet to freeze. The straw teems with life, fleas, lice, and mites that bite and itch, thriving in this warm, decaying ecosystem. Your family huddles close, you in the coveted middle, flanked by your mother, father, and two siblings, with a shivering dog curled at the foot. This is the family bed, a necessity for warmth, far from the private beds of the elite. There's no bedtime ritual, no toothbrushing or soft pajamas, just shedding your mud-crusted cloak. The cold creeps through your thin leather shoes, and every shift on the crackling straw announces your discomfort. Sleep isn't a gentle descent, but a grim endurance, a battle against the cold, the itch, and the hard log pillow, as you wait for morning in this shared, relentless discomfort. A faint tickle grazes your calf, so subtle you might dismiss it as a stray straw or a trick of your nerves. You ignore it, but then it returns, a sharp, insistent itch on your ribs. You try to scratch it quietly, a small, secretive motion under the heavy wool blanket, but the relief is fleeting. Another itch flares on your neck, sharp and maddening. You know what this is? The nightly assault has begun. Your invisible bedfellows, the tiny vampires of the medieval world, are awake and ravenous, launching their relentless siege. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs weren't just a nuisance in the Middle Ages. They were an inescapable part of life, a universal affliction that ignored class, wealth, or piety, tormenting peasant and noble alike. This lack of privacy defines your existence, mirrored in your home's very design. The single-room hovel isn't merely a mark of poverty. It reflects a communal mindset where solitude, closing a door on the world, was profoundly alien. For the medieval peasant, solitude belonged to hermits or monks in their cloistered cells, those who deliberately stepped outside society's fabric. Your life is entirely public, from the fields where you labor alongside neighbors, to the church where you worship as a congregation, to the straw palias where you sleep entwined with family. Privacy, as we understand it, is a modern creation born of new ideas about individuality and enabled by homes with separate rooms for sleeping, eating, and living. Imagine a heated argument with your father during the day. There's no room to storm off to, no door to slam, no couch to sleep on. Even if you had a couch, it would be mere feet from the family bed. Your anger must be resolved or buried, as you'll soon be pressed against him, sharing a blanket. Historians debate whether this forced closeness built stronger, more resilient families by necessitating quick conflict resolution or created a cauldron of suppressed grievances and simmering tension. Did you learn to forgive swiftly, or did you simply master silence? You seek a sliver of peace, closing your eyes and focusing on your breath, a small act of defiance against the chaos. In these moments, quirky folk traditions might surface. Perhaps your mother taught you a night spell, a whispered prayer or charm, not for grand protection against demons, but for humble relief, to ward off nightmares, stop your brother's sleep kicking, or ease the maddening itch of a flea bite. It's a private ritual in a world without secrets, carving out a mental space as small as a whisper. A common charm invoked St. Peter to bind the New York, a bedbug demon, a form of spiritual pest control. But tonight, the spell fails. Your brother's snores persist, a fly buzzes near your ear, and the log pillow wreaks havoc on your neck. You're hyper-aware of every sound, movement, and smell. The lack of peace doesn't stem from external threats like wolves or bandits, but from the constant, inescapable presence of others. Sleep, you realize, isn't just unconsciousness. It's a state of peace, requiring a solitude you'll likely never know. You shift slightly, and the entire human ecosystem moves with you. Finally, you settle into a position that's not actively painful, nestled between your siblings' rhythmic breathing. Your brother's heavy arm has shifted, and for a fleeting moment, an equilibrium settles over your human nest. Teetering on the edge of sleep, your weary mind drifts to the lord of the manor, to whom your father owes service and much of your harvest. You imagine him in his grand stone house, a fortress-like home, sleeping soundly in a soft bed, in a warm room, with the ultimate luxury, solitude. You're both right and wrong. Let's leave your smoky hovel and glide up the hill, past the church, to the manor house. We slip through thick stone walls, past the great hall where household staff sleep on benches or rush-covered floors, to the Lord's private chamber, the solar, a medieval master suite serving as a sitting room, estate office, and bedroom. The first thing you notice is the cold. Stone walls, despite their strength, are poor insulators, soaking up the day's chill and radiating it back all night. A large, ornate fireplace with a proper chimney draws out most of the smoke, tended by a servant to burn through the night, but the room remains drafty and vast, far from the cozy, heated bedrooms of today. The floor is covered with fragrant rushes, perhaps laced with lavender or chamomile to mask mustiness, but parting them reveals the same mice and pests that plague your hovel. Pests were a great equalizer. At the room's center stands the Lord's bed, a magnificent four-poster of carved oak, a room within a room. This isn't just for show. It's a triumph of medieval climate control. Heavy curtains of wool, velvet, or fur-lined fabric hang on all sides, creating a sealed microclimate that traps body heat and blocks drafts, much like your family huddle, but with luxurious materials instead of siblings. Inside, the mattress is a revelation. Fine linen stuffed with goose or duck down, or layers of wool flocking, unimaginably soft compared to your straw pallias. It's topped with linen sheets, multiple woolen blankets, and perhaps a silk or embroidered coverlet. The pillows, multiple, are down-filled, a paradise of comfort by the era's standards. The great bed of Ware, a massive Elizabethan four-poster from around 1590, said to sleep four couples, reflects this tradition of grand beds. Yet, even this feather bed is no sanctuary from pests. Your straw pallias is a bustling metropolis for fleas, lice, and bed bugs, but the Lord's bed, warmed by body heat, is just as inviting. Fleas, tiny reddish-brown insects, leap astonishing distances to find a host, thriving in bedding, dusty floors, or the fur of animals like the piglet grunting in your hovel's corner. Drawn by your warmth, they scurry through your tunic's coarse fabric, their claws seeking exposed skin to bite, their saliva causing maddening itches. Scratching one bite often masks new ones on your ankle. Lice are worse, permanent residents. Head lice glue their eggs to your hair, causing constant scalp itching, while body lice live in your clothing seams, crawling out at night to feed and retreating by day. With clothes rarely washed in hot water and worn constantly, you're a mobile home and buffet for lice. Bed bugs, flat and oval, are nocturnal ninjas, hiding in cracks of timber frames, wattle and daub walls, or your pallias. Light averse, they wait for darkness and your deep sleep, drawn by your breath's carbon dioxide and body heat, biting in telltale lines or clusters, vanishing before you wake, scratching. Fighting these parasites was a losing battle. Personal hygiene, by modern standards, was basic. Soap, made from harsh lion animal fat, was a luxury used more for laundry. Bathing was rare and complex, though the myth of universal filth is exaggerated. Many towns had bathhouses, and people washed hands and faces daily. Still, this couldn't defeat pests. Folk remedies, like a louse house, a hollowed-out wood or bone trap filled with honey or blood worn around the neck, aimed to lure lice, but likely failed. Suddenly, a mouse or young rat darts across the room, a fleeting silhouette against the ember's fading glow. It pauses, whiskers twitching, then vanishes into the dark. Your heart races, then calms. It's just a mouse, a reminder of the life sharing your home. thriving on scraps and shadows. They symbolize the decay and disease lurking at your existence's edges. Your hovel is no fortress, but a permeable shelter, hosting many creatures, not all welcome. The mouse's scuttle fades into the night's background, a familiar horror you push aside. You tug the scratchy woolen blanket tighter, a weak shield against this unseen world. But a new foe emerges, the cold. Not a refreshing modern coolness, but a deep, merciless winter chill. When you first lay down, the fire's residual heat and your family's warmth held it at bay. But now, with the fire reduced to ash and faint orange embers, it offers no comfort. The cold seeps in, relentless, claiming the room. The cold in your small hovel has turned the tables, transforming the stone-cold earth beneath you and the flimsy wattle-and-daub walls into active thieves, siphoning warmth from the room and your body. You feel it as a tangible force. A draft slithers through a crack near your head, a relentless whisper of icy air brushing your cheek. You shift, tucking your head down, but the draft finds the back of your neck. Your feet, caught at the edge of the family huddle under the thinnest part of the blanket, feel like frozen blocks. You curl your toes, hoping to spark some warmth, but it's a losing battle. The cold is triumphant. This is the piercing chill of a medieval winter night, unimaginable to those in modern, centrally heated homes. There's no thermostat to tweak, no furnace to ignite, no electric blanket to summon an artificial summer. Your survival hinges on basic principles: insulation, conservation, and shared body heat. Your daytime tunic and breeches offer a meager layer of protection. The straw pallias shields you from the frozen ground. The shared blanket and your family's bodies are your only active heat sources, a delicate balance. Each breath you take carries the cold's sharp sting into your lungs. And as you exhale, your breath forms a ghostly cloud, briefly lit by moonlight seeping through a gap in the door. You live in a world where fine-toothed combs, carved from bone, wood, or ivory, unearthed in archaeological digs across Europe, with a main weapon against head lice. You and your sister painstakingly comb out nits and adult insects during fleeting moments of daylight, while the wealthy had servants perform this daily ritual. The church viewed parasites as divine punishment, a prickly reminder of humanity's fallen state. Some ascetic saints, like St. Thomas Becket, whose body, after his 1170 assassination, was found in a lice-ridden hair shirt, saw such infestations as a holy trial. Monks preparing his body were both horrified and awed by his piety. Historians debate whether medieval people grew numb to the constant itching or endured it as a persistent, sleep-ruining misery that frayed nerves. Did their skin adapt, or did they simply resign themselves to this human burden? Lying in the dark, resisting the urge to scratch and disturb everyone, you'd argue for misery. The itching is a torment, a physical echo of your world's dirt and discomfort, piling onto the already daunting task of resting. Sleep should be an escape, but tonight you feel like the main dish at a microscopic feast. The maddening itch under your earlobe forces a sharper, less subtle scratch, jolting your sister, who kicks in her sleep, disrupting the bed's fragile truce. As you settle, willing the itching to fade, another sound pierces the familiar chorus of snores and coughs. Not the wind or the house settling, but a soft, rapid skittering from within the room. It stops, then resumes, closer now. Your body tenses. These are the other nocturnal pests, rats and mice, as much a part of your household as your grandmother or the piglet. Shadow dwellers. They glean crumbs and spilled grain, uninvited tenants who pay no rent and show no respect. The fight against them is relentless and unwinnable. By day, you see their traces, tiny black droppings near the grain sacks, a gnawed hole in a precious leather pouch, the faint ammonia-like stench permeating the hovel. At night, in their dark kingdom, they grow bold. The skittering is likely a house mouse, small and timid, darting from the wall to the hearth for a dropped morsel from your meager supper. You pray it's just a mouse. By dawn, you'll rekindle the fire and resume the struggle. The cold is a heavy weight, and all you can do is endure until it lifts. But seasons turn, and the bone-chilling winter gives way to a new nightly torment, a suffocating summer heat wave. The air in your one-room hovel is thick, heavy, and still. The sun, which battered you in the fields all day, has baked the wattle-and-daub walls and thatched roof, turning your home into an oven. Hours after sunset, those walls radiate heat back into the room. The fire pit lies cold and black. Lighting it would be unthinkable, but it makes no difference. The air is a hot, wet blanket you can't escape. Sweat coats your skin, refusing to evaporate in the humid air. Your light linen tunic, the least heavy garment you own, clings clammily to your body. The family huddle, a winter lifeline, is now torture. Your 5 family members' body heat is unbearable. Every contact point a source of slick misery. Your brother, sprawled in search of cooler straw, has a leg draped over yours, burning like a branding iron. You wriggle away, creating a tiny gap of air, and the brief relief is dizzying, but someone shifts, closing the space, and you're back in a human furnace. The woolen blanket, vital in winter, lies kicked to the bed's foot, a crumpled, insulating heap. The air is thick with amplified smells, with smoke, unwashed bodies, and a now larger piglet in the corner. The stagnant air offers no relief. Your hovel has one door and perhaps a small, unglazed window with a wooden shutter. Opening it is a gamble. It might admit a faint breeze, but also invites mosquitoes and other flying insects drawn to warm bodies. Tonight, the gamble failed. The shutter is open, no breeze has come, and a whining hum near your ear signals mosquitoes have found their feast. You slap your neck, the sound sharp in the still air. This is summer's harsh counterpoint to winter's cold. Dehydration and heat stroke were real dangers, especially for the young, elderly, and field laborers, nearly everyone. You live after the medieval warm period, circa 950 to 1250 AD, when Europe enjoyed milder climates. Now, in the early Little Ice Age from around 1300, colder winters, wetter summers, and crop failures increase life's hardships. The cold you face isn't just discomfort. It's a historical force, making survival tougher than for your ancestors. In winter, the fight against cold was life or death. Wood gathered from forests under restricted rights called as stovers was precious. You could only collect fallen branches or would pull down by hook or by crook, making fuel scarce. A large fire burning all night was unthinkable. Instead, you banked the fire with ash to preserve embers, letting cold rule the night. Desperate measures, like the bed warmer, a metal pan filled with hot coals run through the straw or sheets, offered brief warmth but risked setting the flammable palias ablaze. Historians debate whether the long, dark winters and poor diets caused widespread seasonal affective disorder. Records rarely mention emotions in modern terms, but prayers for deliverance from winter's wolf month, when food was scarce and cold fiercest, suggest deep despair. You lie still, minimizing your body's exposure to the cold. You're shivering an involuntary tremor as your muscles fight for heat. Your thoughts slow, anxieties about pests replaced by a desperate craving for warmth. Sleep becomes a surrender, a hibernation to endure the frozen hours until dawn. The real fear is the black rat, Ratus ratus, a stowaway from Roman trading ships, larger and more destructive than mice. Agile climbers, they race through your thatched roof straw, inches above your head. You pull the blanket higher, tucking it under your chin, fearing not just the rats but what they represent. They threaten your survival, gnawing through grain sacks, weeks of labor, fouling what they don't eat. They damage your home, tools, and possessions, agents of decay. Worse, they carry disease. Though the link between rats, their fleas, and the Black Death caused by Yersinia pestis wouldn't be understood for centuries, instinctual dread of rats was universal. The plague, which killed 30 to 60% of Europe's population in the mid-14th century, and smaller outbreaks of typhus or other rodent-borne diseases were constant threats. Your family's scrawny, yellow-eyed cat, a working animal, not a pet, is your defense, leaving small corpses by the hearth as proof of her hunts. You haven't seen her tonight, but a sudden shriek and scrabbling would mean she's on duty. Folk remedies abounded, from practical water traps to bizarre charms, like writing a threatening letter to the rats, demanding they leave or face supernatural consequences, then stuffing it into a rat hole. Historians debate whether this reflected genuine belief or desperate attempts at control. You imagine your father, exhausted, scribbling a tiny eviction notice to the rats. Water, drawn from wells or streams, was often lukewarm and unclean, making a cold drink a fantasy. Your only relief is a damp cloth your mother, soaked in well water, pressed to your forehead, neck, and wrists, its coolness a fleeting shock. The cool touch of the damp cloth on your skin is a moment of pure, unadulterated relief, but it's heartbreakingly brief. Within a minute, your body heat warms the cloth, turning it into a clammy, useless rag. Still, you repeat the process, savoring those fleeting seconds of respite. Medieval health manuals, rooted in the ancient Greek theory of the four humors, offered quirky and often ineffective remedies, suggesting cooling foods like cucumbers, melons, or lettuce, considered cold and moist, to balance the body's humors in hot weather. Your simple supper of bread and greens might reflect this wisdom. Some texts even recommended placing sliced lettuce leaves on the forehead as a poultice to induce sleep on sweltering nights. You can imagine yourself lying there, a human salad, desperately chasing rest. You might think of the nobility, assuming their stone castles offer cooler refuge. It's true and false. Thick stone walls, which fail to retain heat in winter, excel at blocking it during the day, keeping castles and manor houses cooler than your flimsy hovel. But with small windows and poor air circulation, they still grow stuffy and stagnant. The wealthy had tricks. Servants hung wet tapestries or sheets in doorways to cool rooms through evaporation, and they drank wine chilled in deep cellars. In extreme heat, the royal court might embark on the annual progress, moving from castle to castle, not just to clean primitive sanitation systems, but to escape the city's summer stench and heat for the breezier countryside. Historians debate whether architectural features like high ceilings and great halls and cathedrals were purely aesthetic or a clever form of passive cooling, letting hot air rise above occupants. Was a house's orientation on its plot chosen to minimize summer solar gain? For peasants, such considerations were luxuries. Your hovel was built where permitted, with whatever materials were at hand. The night drags on, sleep elusive. You doze in fitful bursts, waking to new mosquito bites or the discomfort of your own sweat. The air's stillness feels like a physical burden. You dream of a cool breeze or a sudden rain to break the heat spell, but there's nothing, just darkness, heat, the whine of insects, and your family's sticky presence. It's a different misery from winter's cold, but misery nonetheless. Whether frozen or roasted, a peaceful night's sleep feels like the rarest treasure. You've escaped your family's sweltering huddle for a night, perhaps sent to a temporary apprenticeship with a cousin in a nearby town, a bustling settlement of a few thousand packed within defensive stone walls. You hoped for better rest away from home's familiar discomforts, but as night falls, you realize you've traded one set of sleep-disrupting problems for another. You're now on a small straw pallet, not on your hovel's dirt floor, but on the rough wooden planks of an upstairs room in a crowded timber-framed house. The room is hot and stuffy, but the true enemy is noise. The city at night is no haven of rest. It's a living, groaning, shouting beast that refuses to quiet. Your room overlooks a narrow, unpaved street, and the open window shutter, cracked to catch any breeze, channels every sound the city produces. Church bells dominate, governing life through the canonical hours. Even at night, they toll for vespers, compline, and, most disruptively, matins and lauds in the pre-dawn hours. The deep, resonant clang of the main church's bronze bell vibrates in your bones, heedless of your need for sleep. Then there's human noise. Below your window, a tavern roars despite the civic curfew, signaled by yet another bell, mandating closure around 8 or 9, PM muffled drunken laughter, the rhythmic thud of a fist on a table, and sharp, angry shouts spill into the street. A brawl erupts, slurred insults, scuffling feet, a meaty punch, and a groan. A woman's furious shout to quiet down and let honest folk sleep is met with fresh curses. It's better than theater, but no lullaby. A new sound cuts through, a loud cry of all's well, and the hour is 10. It's the town watchman, a staple of urban life. These patrols, armed with poleaxes and lanterns, deterred crime, watch for fires, and enforce curfews. Their hourly cries, meant to reassure, add to the nocturnal din. You hear the watchman's boots on the cobblestones, his voice fading as he turns a corner. A dog's barking follows, triggered by his passing, joining a chaotic animal chorus. Medieval towns teemed with livestock. Pigs squeal in a butcher's pen. A confused rooster crows prematurely at the watchman's lantern, setting off a chain of cock-a-doodle-doos across the neighborhood. A donkey brays, a cow lows from a backyard dairy, and rats skitter in walls and alleys. Then comes the smell, tied to the sounds. A door opens below, and the slosh and splatter of a chamber pot emptying into the street's central gutter sends a pungent wave of ammonia and waste through your window. You gag, pulling your thin blanket over your nose. Though discouraged, this was common. The street's kennel was an open sewer, and guard Lou, watch out for the water, warned of the deluge. Gong farmers, tasked with cleaning latrines and cesspits at night, added their shovels, scrape, and the creak of night soil carts to the city's soundscape. Historians debate the watchmen's effectiveness. Were they true enforcers or often drunk citizens going through the motions, their cries warning criminals more than catching them? Regardless, the city never truly sleeps. Its drunken revelry, patrols, sanitation, and prayers pulsing through the night. On your palate, far from your countryside's deep silence, the human-made chaos, shouts, bells, squealing pigs, reminds you're in a noisy, living machine. Sleep doesn't come gently. You collapse from sensory overload. The watchman's cry, all's well, and the hour is 11. Makes you wonder how anything can be well in this sleepless racket. Back home, the town's noise is a memory. On your familiar straw palias, surrounded by your family's warm, breathing bodies, the urban din is replaced by a silence so profound it presses on your eardrums. After the city's chaos, this should be a balm, but it's not. The countryside's silence is terrifying. Far from the town's walls and watchmen's cries, the darkness is absolute on a moonless, overcast night, a primal, biblical void where you can't see your hand before your face, unsoftened by modern streetlights' glow. Every sound is magnified, twisted by your imagination into something monstrous. You lie still, ears straining to decode the night's cryptic sounds. The wind, not a howling storm but a low, mournful sigh, moves through the trees behind your hovel, making them creak like aching bones. Is it just the wind, or something stealthy in the woods? Your mind, steeped in folklore, conjures possibilities. A high-pitched scream, followed by frantic bubbling noises, spikes your heart rate. It sounds human, but you recognize a rabbit caught by a fox, a brutal reminder of nature's violence just beyond your door. The silence that follows is worse, heightening your awareness of the wild forest, a place of daytime foraging, but a nighttime realm of mystery and threat. Medieval superstition painted woods as domains of fairies, goblins, or worse. The church taught that darkness was the devil's playground. An owl's shriek, barn, or tawny sounds like a banshee's wail, fueling legends. You know it's an owl, but a primal part of you doubts. The term nightmare, from the Old English mare, meant a demonic entity causing suffocation and terror, a folk explanation for sleep paralysis. Lying here, heart-pounding, a succubus feels plausible. You might make the sign of the cross under your blanket, a small defense against the night's terrors. Historians debate whether peasants truly believed in supernatural beings or used tales like water kelpies to keep children from rivers. Regardless, the fear was real, the line between natural and supernatural blurred at night. A sharp snap outside the door makes you jump, a twig breaking, a deer, a loose cow, or a thief hoping you have something worth stealing. You hold your breath, hearing only the wind and your family's breathing. After an eternity, you decide it's likely a fallen branch. This is the countryside's tyranny. Silence becomes a canvas for your deepest fears of the unknown, the wild, the supernatural. You almost crave the town's honest racket, where dangers had human faces. Here, the monsters are nameless, lurking in the all-consuming dark. You focus on the familiar, pushing back the formless fears of the woods. The familiar sounds within your hovel, the soft snores of your father, the rustle of straw as your sister shifts, the faint grunting of the pig in the corner, anchor you to the domestic world. You cling to these realities, but another sensory assault creeps in, the inescapable world of smells. Wealthier homes might strew lavender, chamomile, or meadowsweet to combat odors, but for you, such luxuries are rare. In high summer, your mother might gather herbs, their fleeting fragrance a brief triumph over the organic stench. A mainstream historical fact reveals that our modern fixation on deodorization and sanitation emerged in the 19th and 20th centuries with germ theory. Medieval people lived with a level of ambient odor that would shock a modern nose, tolerating smells we'd find foul. Yet, they weren't oblivious. Medieval literature often linked bad smells to sin, corruption, or disease, while pleasant scents like church incense or garden flowers symbolized purity and paradise. Your nose, more accustomed to this environment than a modern one, still registers the chamber pot's unpleasant tang and the greasy blanket's suffocating weight. Historians debate whether this olfactory intensity fostered a sense of malaise or was so commonplace it faded from awareness. Lying here, you'd say it's both. Usually unnoticeable, but in the quiet night, the wall of smell becomes a solid, overwhelming force. Each breath delivers a layered sample of your world. Damp earth and human waste at the base, stale sweat and musty straw in the middle, topped with pig and a hint of wood smoke. This air, a potent reminder of your crowded, organic life, must sustain you until morning. Sleep demands sensory shutdown, but your sense of smell rebels, refusing to relent. You bury your face in your arm, seeking a pocket of less offensive air, waiting for unconsciousness to offer a brief escape. Just as fatigue pulls you towards sleep's oblivion, a new torment emerges from within, a dull, throbbing ache in your jaw. You try to ignore it, adjusting your head on the hard log pillow, but the movement triggers a sharp, electric jolt of pain through your face. It's your tooth, a molar with a deep black cavity, erupting into full rebellion in the dead of night. This is medieval sickness, not dramatic plagues, but the grinding misery of everyday ailments with no remedy. The throbbing pulses in sync with your frantic heartbeat, radiating to your temple and neck. You press your hand to your cheek, hoping to contain the agony, but it's futile. In a modern world, you take ibuprofen, visit a dentist for a filling or extraction under anesthesia. Here, those don't exist. No painkillers, no dentists, just raw pain. Your world lacks germ theory. Disease is a mystery, perhaps divine punishment or an imbalance of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. A toothache might stem from excess humors or, per folk belief, a toothworm gnawing inside. Your mother, stirred by your moans, might fumble for her pouch of remedies, offering a mashed herb poultice for your cheek or a clove to hold against the tooth. It's eugenol, a rare, mildly effective anesthetic. Bizarre remedies, like spitting into a frog's mouth to transfer the pain, reflect desperate measures. If the pain persists, you might face the barber surgeon, who, unlike rare physicians, handles minor surgeries like tooth extraction. With brutal iron pliers called a pelican, he'd pull and twist, risking a broken jaw, blood loss, or deadly infection. A terrifying prospect. The pain steals your sleep and focus, colonizing your consciousness. Each throb tenses your body, disturbing your siblings, who grumble and shift away. Feverish heat and clammy sweat wash over you. This is the reality of common ailments: headaches, urinary infections, arthritic joints, or stomach cramps forcing miserable trips to the chamber pot. Without modern medicines, you rely on your immune system, dubious herbs, and prayer. Historians debate whether constant hardship made medieval people more resilient to pain or if the lack of analgesics made it more terrifying. With fire in your jaw, you'd choose the latter. Pain feels like a malevolent entity within. Sleep becomes impossible. Each drift toward rest is shattered by a vicious throb. Despair creeps in. How will you face tomorrow's field labor? There are no sick days. No work means no food. Sickness is an economic disaster. The night stretches endlessly, filled with suffering, the darkness mirroring your mind's torment, where pain extinguishes all else. By some miracle, the throbbing dulls to a manageable ache. Perhaps the clove worked, or the nerve relented. Exhaustion, deep and heavy, pulls you towards sleep, your thoughts slowing. But just as consciousness frays, a new anxiety sparks, the fear of fire. Your hovel is a tinderbox, dry wattle walls, a flammable thatched roof, a straw bed, and stray kindling on the dirt floor. Only the ground won't burn. The hearth's embers, banked by your father under ash to smolder for morning, are a latent threat. A stray draft through a wall crack could coax a spark to life, lifting it to the thatch. A wisp of smoke, then a spreading orange glow, could ignite in moments. You recall a neighbor's house ablaze, its roar and heat searing your memory from 100 feet away. They lost everything: home, food, even their pig, escaped only with their lives. Fire was a constant medieval danger, especially in timber and thatch villages. A single spark could consume a block or town, as seen in the Great Fire of London in 1666. You imagine the horror: smoke's acrid scent, the crackle of flames, your father's shouts, a frantic scramble to save your family. No time for possessions. Church bells, frantic and irregular, signaled fire, calling villagers to form bucket chains from wells or rivers. Town ordinances, banning thatched roofs, requiring water reserves, enforcing fire curfews, show the threat's severity. You sniff the air. Is that smoke or just the banked embers? Every crackle feels like a warning, your mind turning stimuli into signs of doom. As your family's self-appointed fire warden, you lie awake, heart pounding, praying the embers stay tame. The fear of fire fades as you confirm the embers are safe, the air clear. But your anxious mind shifts to a deeper terror, dying in your sleep. This isn't a modern philosophical worry, but a vivid, theologically charged fear. The church, the cornerstone of your worldview, teaches that your soul's state at death determines your eternal fate, heaven's bliss or hell's torment. This moment is everything, and the night, with its darkness and vulnerability, amplifies the dread of an unprepared soul facing judgment. Lying on your straw pallias, you begin a mental tally of your sins. Yesterday's sharp words to your mother over fetching water, the small, shriveled apple you pilfered from the Lord's orchard last week, a fleeting lustful thought about the blacksmith's daughter, a pang of envy for your friend's newer shoes. These are minor in the grand scheme, but your priest has warned that even the tiniest unconfessed sin stains the soul, displeasing God. In the dark, you attempt a silent act of contrition, striving to feel genuine remorse for these small wrongs, vowing to God to be kinder and less envious tomorrow. It's a desperate, whispered bargain to spiritually prepare yourself, just in case. The bitter irony is that seeking sleep's peaceful oblivion stirs a deeper fear of eternal oblivion. The room's darkness feels charged, menacing, as if the veil between the living and spiritual worlds is thin. Every creak of the house, every owl's hoot, once feared as physical threats, now feels like an omen from beyond. Sleep is a surrender, a rehearsal for death, and tonight, you're unsure you're ready. Your heart pounds, not with fear of fire but of hellfire, and you wonder if you'll ever feel safe enough to close your eyes. The terror of damnation eventually exhausts itself. The mind can only sustain such intense anxiety for so long before fatigue, that relentless force takes over. Your catalog of sins is complete, your silent prayers offered, and your body's need for rest finally outweighs your soul's dread. The hard log pillow feels oddly comforting, the scratchy will blanket a shield. You close your eyes and sink into the deep, dreamless sleep of utter exhaustion. This isn't the start of a full 8-hour rest, a modern concept lost to your world. You've entered what sleep historians call first sleep, a natural rhythm dictated by the sun's setting in a world without artificial light. After a meager supper and firelit chores, there's little to do but sleep, often as early as 7 or 8 p.m. in winter. Your body, weary from labor, dives into this first sleep with urgency, lasting 3 to 4 hours. It's the deepest, most restorative phase, where you're nearly oblivious to the world. Mice skittering, siblings shifting, owls hooting, none pierce your slumber. Your body repairs muscle tears, consolidates sparse, pleasant memories, and restores energy. You surface from first sleep, not groggy but strangely refreshed, the evening's pains and fears washed away. The night is no longer a foe but a calm, quiet space. You're awake in a deep darkness, your family still asleep, their soft breathing filling the hovel. This is the waking watch, a clear-headed interlude unique to this time. A modern person might panic, labeling insomnia, checking a clock, and fretting about tomorrow's fatigue. But you have no clock. Time is marked by stars, roosters, and your body's rhythms. This wakefulness isn't a disorder. It's an opportunity, a liminal space between night's halves. As a peasant, your options are practical. You might slip off the palias, bare feet silent on the cold dirt floor, guided by faint starlight through a wall crack. You check the piglet's breathing, ensuring it's untangled from its tether. A healthy pig is a family asset. Then, you tend the fire, gently poking the ash-covered embers to consolidate them, adding a single dry stick, not to spark a flame, but to sustain the smolder for morning. This small act is vital household management. This waking period, often called the watch, was a treasured time for tasks, reflection, or prayer. For the literate, it was for reading by candlelight. For the devout, quiet communion with God. You and your sister, both awake, might whisper secrets or fears unvoiced by day. Historians link the decline of segmented sleep to artificial lighting, gas lamps, then electric bulbs, pushing bedtimes later, consolidating sleep into one block. Social shifts also favored efficiency, erasing the watch's quiet intimacy. Your second sleep, gentler and shallower, lasts another 3 to 4 hours, carrying you to dawn. Unlike the dreamless first sleep, it's vivid with dreams, flying over fields, feasting on endless food, or darker visions of wolves or cryptic saints. Dreams were taken seriously, seen as divine messages, devilish temptations, or portents. A snake might warn of enemies. Falling could signal spiritual decline. You might share a vivid dream with your mother or priest for interpretation, adding anxiety to sleep's complexity. The watch's practical purpose was evolutionary. First sleep restored your body, while the watch allowed safe task completion or reflection. Second sleep, lighter, kept you alert to dawn's dangers, a predator eyeing your livestock or a thief in the pre-dawn gloom. Court records reference this cycle, with witnesses noting events after my first sleep or during second sleep, showing its societal embedding. Modern experiments without artificial light reveal humans naturally revert to segmented sleep, suggesting our 8-hour ideal is the anomaly. In second sleep, you're less unconscious, vaguely aware of your brother's kick or your sister stealing the blanket, responding without waking. You drift, dreaming, waiting for dawn, your body resting but poised to rouse at a strange sound, a biological alarm horn for survival. Your hovel's air grows thick with smells, sealed tight against night's threats. The chamber pot, a wooden bucket or crude ceramic in the corner, collects your family's waste, its sharp ammonia wafting with each use. There's no lid, no flush, just raw presence. You breathe shallowly, but on warm nights, its stench dominates. Your bedmate's odor, sweat from field labor, ingrained in unwashed tunics, add a sour, animal tang, familiar but dense. The straw pallias, a decaying ecosystem, smells musty with mildew from the damp earth floor. The wool blanket carries greasy lanolin, wood smoke, and human oils. The piglet and ever-present rats add earthy and ammonia notes. Strewing sweet herbs was a futile attempt to mask this, unlike wealthier homes. Medieval literature tied foul smells to sin, pleasant ones to holiness, but historians debate whether this olfactory intensity caused malaise or was normalized. For you, it's both, unnoticed by day, but overwhelming at night. In the hazy, dream-filled drift of your second sleep, vivid images, an impossibly large field of cabbages, a forgotten ancestor's face, are shattered by a sound. It's not from within your hovel or the nearby woods, but from the sky itself. A deep, resonant bong rolling across the dark landscape. The village church's great bronze bell calls the devout to prayer. For monks, this signals matins, a holy vigil piercing the devil's favorite hour. A quirky tidbit reveals tales of naughty monks struggling to stay awake during these services, their heads slumping. Some monasteries employed a circuitor, a monk with a lantern, to shine light on dozing brethren or tap their shoulders, a gentle or stern reminder of sacred duty. This humanizes their struggle against sleep's pull. Historians debate whether this interrupted sleep caused chronic deprivation or if monks' bodies adapted to polyphasic patterns, compounded by meager diets and demanding lives of labor and prayer. Back in your hovel, the bell's echo fades, the monk's distant chanting a faint hum. For you, it's a marker that the night's deepest part is passing, dawn nearing. You're not bound to rise. Your duty is to fields and family, not liturgy, so you linger in your shallow, dream-filled second sleep. Yet the bell reminds you that even sleep is woven into the church's framework, tying your small life to the spiritual battle waged in the cold chapel. A sharp, close sound slices through the quiet, the panicked bleating of a sheep from the pen outside. It's a cry of terror, not placidity. Instantly awake, adrenaline surging, you see your father rise fluidly, grabbing the wood axe by the door, a tool and weapon. The sheep's bleating chokes into silence. Your father slips outside, you and your mother huddling with the younger children, hearts pounding. Wolves, though rare in England by the late 15th century, remain threats elsewhere, alongside feral dogs or bold foxes that could take a lamb or chicken. Your livestock is your wealth, food, and security. An attack threatens survival. Two-legged predators, thieves, or vagrants are a graver fear. Without police, streetlights, or alarms, your flimsy door and its bar are your only defense. Medieval society teemed with desperate, displaced people from famines, wars, or plagues, roaming as masterless men who might see your isolated hovel as a target. Your grain, tools, or livestock are valuable to steal. Your father returns, grim-faced. A fox took a chicken, but the sheep is safe. He bars the door, but the sense of security is gone. Adrenaline keeps sleep at bay, a reminder of your vulnerability. In towns, dark alleys harbored muggers who'd slip purse strings and vanish, or burglars who'd lift shutters or jimmy locks. A grim legal quirk allowed homeowners to kill nocturnal intruders on the spot, presuming sinister intent, a right called infangthif. Coroner records suggest higher homicide rates in medieval cities than modern ones, though data is spotty. Was life more violent, or were incidents better recorded? Regardless, fear of violence was constant without a police force, relying on strong doors, vigilant neighbors, and an axe by the bed. You lie listening to your pounding heart, the silence now tense with the fox's intrusion. Tales of bandit gangs or desperate men haunt you. Your father sits awake, axe across his lap, eyes on the door, sacrificing sleep for safety. Your life shifts briefly. You're called to a labor obligation or to accompany a merchant cousin to a market town. At dusk, you reach a roadside inn, its timber frame and painted sign promising shelter. Firelight glows through windows, and the smell of roasting meat and ale contrasts with your usual boiled turnips. But inside, the inn is no haven. It's a chaotic public house. The main room swirls with noise, smoke, and humanity. A roaring fire makes it stifling, the air thick with sweat, spilled ale, wet wool, and greasy smoke. Merchants, soldiers, a friar, and farmers crowd benches, their conversations clashing with clattering plates and the landlord's shouts. There are no private rooms, just a common room and, if lucky, a spot in a shared bed. After an overpriced meal of bread and pottage, you ask for lodging, and the innkeeper points to a steep, narrow staircase. In the waking watch, you tend to practical tasks, checking the piglet, maintaining the fire, or using the chamber pot to ensure a comfortable second sleep. Your mother might adjust your grandmother's blanket or tease wool fibers by the hearth, tasks needing little light. Historical records note the watch as a time for study or creativity. Jurist Edward Coke called it a golden hour for contemplation. Poet Wordsworth composed verses then. For the pious, it was for private prayer, distinct from public worship. A 16th century clergyman urged meditating on mortality during this time, framing your earlier fears as spiritual exercise. Medical texts suggested post-first sleep intimacy, when couples were rested and privacy rare, possibly impacting family size. You and your sister, both awake, share a silent look, a secret moment in the gloom. The night feels like a sanctuary, its anxieties replaced by peace as you drift in a second sleep. For monks, sleep was ritually broken for matins around 2 or 3 a.m. In the monastery's dormitory, monks sleep on individual straw pallets, rising at the sacristan's bell to don woolen habits and file into the frigid chapel. Matins involve psalms, hymns, and readings, with monks chanting all 150 psalms weekly, their Gregorian chant hauntingly beautiful, followed by lauds at dawn's first hint. These services span hours, a spiritual battle against darkness's demons. Monks were seen as prayer warriors, protecting all from plague, war, or barren fields. Back home, the bell's echo fades, and a sheep's cry jolts you awake, underscoring the night's real dangers. Predators or thieves exploiting the dark. Your father's vigilance ensures safety, but at the cost of rest, leaving you in a world where sleep is a fragile, contested treasure. Climbing the steep, narrow staircase of the roadside inn, you leave the chaotic din of the common room below, entering a long, low-ceilinged sleeping quarters tucked under the rafters. It resembles a monastery dormitory, but lacks any trace of discipline or piety. The floor is lined with 2 or 3 massive beds, far larger than any at home, designed to hold multiple sleepers. This is your night's lodging. A mainstream historical fact notes that private rooms in inns were virtually non-existent until the late Middle Ages or early modern period, reserved for the ultra-wealthy. For ordinary travelers like you, a penny or two buys a fractional share of a communal bed, not privacy. The innkeeper points to your spot, where 2 strangers already sleep, their forms lumpy shapes under a coarse blanket, one snoring like a bellows. You know nothing of them. Honest merchant or fugitive, it's a gamble. Sleeping in it means sharing not just a room, but the bed itself, pressed against strangers, their warmth, smells, and germs mingling with yours. Etiquette guides from the period, a quirky tidbit, advised against excessive scratching or loud flatulence, urging consideration for bedfellows. One 16th century rule warned against touching your bedmate in an annoying way, hinting at the awkward, common issues of such arrangements. You hesitate but climb in, stripping to your undershirt, folding your outer clothes as a pillow to deter theft. A clever trick. The mattress, stuffed with wool flocking, is a step up from your straw pallias but reeks of sour wine and countless unwashed travelers. Your money pouch, tied to your belt, is tucked beneath you, the fear of robbery by a bedmate ever present. You lie rigid, feigning sleep, every sense on alert. The stranger beside you mutters, his arm brushing your back, making you flinch. Historians debate the dynamics of these communal beds. Were they hotbeds of suspicion and violence, or did a weary traveler's truce prevail? Likely both, an uneasy peace punctuated by thefts, brawls, or even murders, as court records attest. The inn was a volatile microcosm of society, mixing all classes in intimate, uneasy proximity. Pests, too, thrived here. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs, seasoned travelers themselves, made inns hubs for parasitic exchange. You're guaranteed to wake with new bites. The common room's noise, laughter, a dropped mug, filters up, a stark contrast to your hovel's familial security. Here, the greatest threat might be the snoring stranger beside you, and sleep is shallow, watchful, untrusting. Back home, the accumulated sleep debt from travel and nightly challenges leaves you wrung out, plagued by insomnia. Your mind races, your body exhausted but unable to rest. Modern sleep aids like melatonin or ZZQL don't exist. Your remedies blend practical herbalism, magical thinking, and risky concoctions. Your mother, the keeper of folk medicine, offers gentle options first. A mainstream historical fact confirms that herbs like chamomile, used for millennia, calm the nerves. She might brew chamomile tea or use valerian root, pungent but effective. More potent options, like opium poppy or nightshade plants, henbane, mandrake belladonna, were riskier. Opium syrup, like laudanum, could induce a heavy, dream-filled sleep, but imprecise dosing made it deadly. A quirky tidbit describes the Spongia somnifera, a sponge soaked in opium and henbane for surgical anesthesia, its fumes knocking out patients. A diluted dose might aid sleep, but these plants risked hallucinations, paralysis, or death. Historians debate how common these narcotics were, secret remedies tied to witchcraft accusations or widespread for desperate cases. Fearing such dangers, you sip your mother's chamomile tea. Its floral taste a small comfort, hoping its gentle nudge towards slumber suffices. Exhaustion or the tea finally works, and you sink into the peaceful final moments of second sleep, dreams soft and nonsensical. The tranquility shatters with the rooster's piercing crow, a feathered tyrant heralding dawn. Its cry, answered by neighboring roosters, engulfs the village in a cacophony, ending the night. You groan, pulling the blanket over your head, but the light shifts through wall cracks, the absolute black softening to a hazy gray, the gloaming signaling rest's end. Your mother, meanwhile, faces unique burdens. Beside her, your newborn sibling cries every few hours, demanding breastfeeding in the cold, dark hovel. Without formula or bottles, she rouses constantly, lifting the swaddled infant from its cradle to nurse. This isn't serene but exhausting, vital for survival given high infant mortality rates. She also keeps the baby warm, acting as a human heater or changes soiled linen clouts, a miserable task in winter. Co-sleeping, while necessary, risked accidental suffocation, a tragedy so common priests warned against overlaying. Childbirth, often at night, was a perilous ordeal in the hovel, managed by midwives and village women, using prayer-inscribed birth girdles for protection. Midwives, blending empirical knowledge and suspicion of witchcraft, bore immense responsibility. For women, sleep was constantly sacrificed to children's needs, amplifying chronic sleep deprivation. The rooster's crow fades, replaced by the infant's wail, as sunlight stripes the smoky air. The night is over. You stand at your hovel's threshold, bone-weary, facing the muddy track and vast fields. Medieval time, divided into temporal hours based on daylight, made summer hours longer and winter ones shorter, with a rooster as a living clock. Legal codes used its crow as a time marker, symbolizing vigilance against sloth. Historians debate whether this solar schedule was healthier, syncing with natural rhythms, or brutal, offering no flexibility for exhaustion. Chronic sleep deprivation weakened immunity, cognition, and mental health, leaving the population in a fog compared to modern rested counterparts. Segmented sleep's legacy persists. Modern insomnia may echo this ancient rhythm, pathologized as a disorder when it's natural. The night's fears, demons, ghosts, linger in our folklore and horror, the darkness forever tied to danger. Was medieval life unrelenting misery or tempered by community bonds? Your night suggests misery, discomfort, pests, and pain made rest a luxury. Your straw paleas was battlefield, sanctuary, and torture device. Surviving it is a victory of resilience. Now, the sun rises, the fields await, and you brace for another night's battle, your breath a steady rhythm against the fading echoes of a harsher world.